Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 21 of my Learn to Program series. In this part of the tutorial, this is going to be the second part of the Tkinter tutorial. So if you haven't watched part 1, you should definitely watch that first, otherwise you may be confused, and in the description there's a link to that. In this part I'm going to cover menu bars, TK variables, message boxes. We're also going to talk about styling widgets, and a whole bunch more. And the code as well as a transcript of this video is also in the description, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so first off I'm going to handle some of my imports, the things that I know I'm going to need anyway in this tutorial. I said message box, so let's go and get that also. And if I need anything else, PyCharm will tell me. So the very first thing I want to do here is talk about TK variables and maybe also do something with unbind. So just like always, we're going to come in and create our TK object. And then, as I showed you previously, there are Tkinter variables, and you can use them with widgets to both set and get the values in different ways. So I'm going to cover the string value option as well as all the other different options. So let's go and create an integer variable as well, and that's just int var. And there's also one for doubles, and that's double var. And then finally there's ones for booleans, or true or false, and boolean var. So there we go, we created those. So the first thing we want to do is set default values for these, and this is going to show up in the interface that we create. And I'll just go string var, and to set those values we just use set, and you can put anything inside of these at this point whenever you're first creating these. Make sure that I change that to var so we keep everything consistent. And I'm going to do the same exact thing for all these other ones. And if at any point in time I'm going too fast, feel free to pause your video and type everything in. I move really quickly so that everybody can watch the video at their own speed. Double, enter double, and then finally boolean. And let's go and set this to true by default. So what we're going to use here is either a checkbox or a radio box. I haven't decided which. I will decide here in a moment. So now what we need to do is assign the variables to either a text variable or variable, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to say string, and entry is going to be equal to entry, and we're going to reference root here. And then we define the variable that we want the data to pull from by going text variable, and then you're going to go string var in this situation. And then I'm just going to use the pack geometry manager to keep everything nice and simple here. So string entry and pack, and I want everything to go on the left side of the screen, so I'll just define that. And then I'm going to do the same exact thing for all of the other different options. So we'll go da 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 da, and this is just going to be int entry, and this will be int var obviously, and int entry, and everything else will be the same there. Do the same thing with this. Let's call this double entry, and this is going to be double var and double entry, and then boolean. Well, actually, let's change this. I think I'm going to make this a check button, and then depending upon if this check button is selected or not, that's going to determine what data you're going to get inside of your widgets. And then I think I'm going to set it up so that we can use bind and unbind, and that's just going to allow me to unbind and bind a function to the press of a button, just so that I can cover something different. So I'm going to call this the check button, and then this is going to be a check button, and then this is going to be root as well. And if you want to use a check button here, I'm going to put text is equal, and I'm just going to put switch inside of here. And then this is going to be tied still to the boolean, but this is going to have to be just called variable instead of text variable. And then after I have that set up, let's go and set the bind to the left mouse button, so the check button, and I'm going to bind this guy by default whenever it first stops, or when it first sets up here, to the left mouse button, and that's button 1. And then I'm going to call a function here I'm going to create in a second called bind button, and then we will just pack this again, the check button, and there we go. Now after this, I said there's going to be a regular old button inside of here, and that's going to call get data. So let's go get data button, and I'll create that function here in a second. So it's just going to be a regular old button, again tied to root, and the text here is going to be get data. You'll see here in a second when I create the function what it's going to do. get data button, and I just need to bind this guy to the same mouse click, left mouse button, and call the function get data. It gives me an error message because I haven't created it yet, and get data button again, and here we're just going to pack it once again on the left side. So everything's going to be all on one row. And then since I'm here, I might as well just finish this up, come down here and create main loop so that it keeps my window open and my program running. Now I'm going to create all of these different functions. So what is get data? Let's just create it up here before any of this even starts. Let's define what get data is going to get for us. So get data. And what it's going to do is just get whatever is inside of all of these different entries that the user types in. So we're going to get an event here. And we could set this to none. That handles if an event is not passed inside of there. In this situation, you don't need it. Sometimes you do need it. Might as well just throw it in there. What the heck? And then what I want to do is just output over here on the console side all of the different values that are stored inside or that the user typed inside of here. And to get a value that is stored inside of an entry, we're just going to call get on that entry. And I'm going to print out all of the different values we have here. And there's 4 of them. And the next one is going to be integer. And then we're going to have double, of course, as you saw. And then we're also going to have our Boolean value. And then I just have to come in here and just reference those guys. So it's int var and double var as well as Boolean var. And there we go. That's how we can get all those different values, and that's all we're going to do with that function. Now on to the bind button. What this is going to do is it's going to unbind and rebind an event to a function. And it's going to be based off of whether this guy right here, the check button, is checked or not. So I'm just going to call this bind button, just as I defined down below. And once again, we can go event and none on that guy. And then if I want to check if it is currently set or not, I can just go a Boolean var and then get, and it's going to return either true or false depending upon if it is set or not. And if that comes back as true, then I want to say get data button, and I want to unbind that guy, and I'll leave it to you to think about why we are, whenever it's true, we're unbinding it. Think about it, you'll get it. All right, and then else we're going to say get data button again, and in this situation we'll say bind, and once again we will bind to button 1, and then we define the function that we want to have it set to, and that's going to be get data once again, except we get rid of these parentheses. And I think that's all I need to do. Let's run it. Oh, gave me a little error. Of course, I went and did something silly. Line 18, what'd I do? I has to change that to var. There we are. And I see here I'm so stuck in camel case world where I always uppercase the next thing. There, I get rid of that. And did I do that anywhere else being silly? Yes, I did. I did it right there as also. Alright, so there we go. Fix those common errors, and let's run it. And you're going to see that, yes indeed, everything looks like it worked out good. Let's just come in here and enter anything into that for the string, and then the integer, say something like 1, and then 3.14, and then the switch is going to be true or false. We'll click get data, see what happens. And you can see all the inputs we put inside of here all showed up there. You can also see the Boolean is set for true. Now let's go and let's open this guy up again and see what happens when we default or change the switch here. Click on that, click get data, and look at that, nothing happens. And if we click on switch again and get data, you're going to see that it works again. So that's how we use some TK variables, as well as we can bind and unbind functions inside of Tkinter inside of Python. And now I'm going to show you different ways that we can style our widgets. Alright, so I got this message box here, might as well go and use it. So I'm going to show you how to open a message box. So we're going to create a function here called open message box. And to open a message box, we can just go message box like this, and then we can say show a warning. A couple other different things you saw, show info and all those. You can play around with them, see how they work. And for this guy, we're just going to say something like event triggered, and then that's going to be in the title. And then this is going to be the message itself. I'm just going to say something like button clicked. And there that is. Alright, so now we'll come down inside of here. And like I said, we're going to cover some different ways we can style our widgets. One thing you can do is define the size of your window as well as the position on the screen. And basically what you do there is you go width and then the letter X, height, and then what you're going to do is have a plus, and then you're going to have X offset, and that's going to be from the upper left hand corner of your screen, and then another plus, and then you're going to have the Y offset. Okay, so that's how we're going to be able to define where our windows are going to be and how big they're going to be. So let's go and create that. We go root followed by geometry, and then just like I said, we're going to define our width, and then I'm going to put an X inside of here, and then we're going to define our height, and then I'm going to put a plus, and then the offset from the X as well as the Y offset from the upper left hand side of our screen. You're also going to be able to set it so that the window can't be resizable. Obviously it's resizable by default, and to do that you can also say that like the width can be resized but the height can't be, so I'm going to make them both false. You can play around and see what happens whenever you make either one of them false. And height is equal to false. I'm going to go and create a simple frame that's going to house all of my widgets. And then you're going to be able to change the styling options by defining style is equal to TTK style. However, if you do that, you're going to have to come up here and import TTK. So I'm going to say from Tkinter import TTK, and that's just going to make things work a little bit better on different operating systems. And now whenever we want to set our different styling options, we just go style, and you can either go config or configure, whatever. I'm going to do configure right here. And if you want to target the button, for example, as changing the styling, you go T button like that. And if you want to change the foreground or the text for the widget, the button widget, you can do that. And I'm going to use midnight blue here. And all of the different specific names for colors inside of Tkinter can be found at this specific website right here. So just go there, and there's a whole ton of different colors you can use. So feel free to do that. And the link's in the description as well. We're also going to be able to come in here and change the font. And to do that, you're going to list the font's name followed by the PX, the size of the font, and then after that your different font styles that you want to change. So let's do bold and italic here. There's a whole bunch of different things we're going to be able to do. Don't forget to put that comma inside of there. And let's also go and do padding. Let's change padding on this to 20. Okay, so there's just a couple different things we can do. And if you're wondering what the different names are for the widgets, you can see here's T button, there's check button. These are what you're going to use if you want to specifically style or change the style of different widgets, and those are all the different widgets that are available to you to style. So there they are, and click pause if you want to write those down or whatever. Get them on the description as well. Another thing you're going to be able to do is you can change the theme style for your application. And one useful thing in regards to that is I'll show you a command that's going to allow you to see all the different themes available for your specific operating system you're using. And that function is going to be TTK, and then you're going to call style, and then you're going to call .theme names. That's going to print all those out for you. You're also going to be able to see the current style settings that you have set for any of your different widgets you have. So you can go style, lookup, and depending upon your operating system, you're going to have more or less different options available to you in regards to styling your functions. So let's say we wanted to find out what the font was for all of our buttons. We could do it that way. And we also changed foreground on here, and that's the text color. And we also changed padding, so we can look those up and have those printed out on the screen. And why don't we go and actually create our button so that we can see what's going on with it. So we'll go the button and then TTK button, and we're going to tie this to the frame instead of root. And the text that's going to show up in the button is, I'm going to say something like important button. And because I called it important, it is important. And I want the message box to open up whenever this button's clicked on. So I'm going to go open message box. There we are. And that's this guy that I created up here. There you are. And what else can we do with our button here? Well, another thing you could do is you could disable as well as enable your button. So we'll go button, and you reference state with that. So we'll say state for our button is currently disabled. And if we want to re-enable our button, we can do that, of course, as well. And you just call that normal. And if we want to see this, we can say the button and call pack on this. And there's nothing else in there, so I don't need to style it at all. And then we can call frame pack, and root main's there, and you're going to be able to see the different styling changes we made. And there it is. See, important button, we went and bolded it and italicized it, changed the format of it, changed the font, and all those different things. And you can see right here that it shot out all the different types of themes that are available, as well as the font, the color, and the padding. So, a whole bunch of different things we can do. And since we know the different themes that are available, why don't we jump up here and change the theme just so you can see how a theme change looks. So to do that, you go TTK and Style. These are built-in themes. And then we can say Theme and then Use. And then the theme we want to use. So let's see what Clam looks like. And we'll run it. And you can see right there, that's what Clam looks like, the default theme for buttons anyway. So there's a rundown of a couple different ways we can style our different widgets inside of Tkinter. And now I'm going to do some really cool stuff. We're going to take a deep look at menu bars. Alright, so what I'm going to do is create a menu bar, this stuff right here. I'm going to create 3 of them. I'm going to create File, View, and Help. And then I'm going to create check boxes inside of there and expandable menu bars, whole bunch of different things. So let's go and create a couple of different functions so I can show you first off how to close an application, because quit's going to be an option inside of here. So if you want your Tkinter application to quit, you just go root quit, and there you are. That's how you shut that down. Alright, and another thing, well, we already covered the message box. We're going to call for that to open by defining a keyboard shortcut and an event, and this is going to be set for none as well. And this is a review, so message box, you want a message box to open up, show warning, and then the title for this message box is going to be about, and then we're going to say something like this awesome program was made in 2016, and that's pretty good. And let's come down here and start creating the menu bar in our application. So first thing we want to do is create the menu object, and I'm just going to call this the menu. And how you do that is by going menu and then passing root to it. And I'm going to create each of these. I'm going to create file, then the view, and then the help button afterwards. So to create a pull down menu that's not going to be able to be removed from the top of your screen or your little application you're creating, it's normally better to, you're going to see here in a second, I'm going to say file menu is equal to menu, and the menu you want to tie this to, and then you're going to follow that with tear off, and you're going to set that to 0. Tear off, if this was set to positive, you'd be able to rip that off maybe. It depends on an operating system. I don't think I've ever had this actually be an option, so we're going to always leave tear off be equal to 0. And then what you're going to do is add items to your menu, and these are going to be the things that show up whenever the user clicks on file, like that. See all those things that popped up? Well, we're going to define all the different things that are going to show up inside of the menu. And to do so, you go file menu, which is what we're going to be tying these items to. And then you follow that with add command in this situation. Sometimes you put other things in there, but add command is going to work here. And this is just going to be a label that does nothing. So I'm going to say, there we are, and it's going to be open. So I'm going to create a whole bunch of these different things, and I'm going to create ones that do things whenever you click on them. I'm also going to have save be another one of these guys. And let's move this up a little bit. Maybe you want to add a horizontal bar that's going to separate the different commands that are available to you. You can also do that. Just go File Menu and then Add and Separator. There that is. I don't know about you, but I spell separator wrong every once in a while, so it's good to do that. And then let's go and use this function we created up here to call quit application with our quit option. So I'm going to go File Menu and Add Command is going to be the next one we want to do. And here we're going to say label is going to be equal to quit, and then we're going to define the command or the function that is going to fire whenever we click on that, and that's going to be quit app like this. Make sure you get rid of those parentheses though. And then you need to add the pull down menu to your menu bar, and how you do that is you go menu and add cascade, and then you're going to put your label inside of here, which is going to be file, name file. And then you go menu is going to be equal to file menu. and that's going to tie all those different options all together. Then the last thing you want to do here is you want your menu bar to actually show up on the screen, and how you do that is you go root config, and then you're going to say menu is going to be equal to the menu, which is the guy that you defined before, and then main loops there, and that's all you need to do, and let's run it. Now if you click on this, you're going to see file shows up over here, and you can see open and save show up here, and if we click on quit, look at that, the application quits. Alright, so let's add some more things here that are a little bit more feature rich. Let's create another one, and just so this shows up a little bit better, I'm going to actually name this. So view menu is going to start right here, and we can go up here and we can say file menu for this guy, just so we know where the different menu options show up. There's file menu and there's view menu. Alright, so for the view, what I want to do is just go view menu, create that guy is equal to menu, and I'm going to tie it to our main menu, of course, and the tear off option is going to be set to 0. I'm going to have an option in here that is going to allow the user, like what I'm doing here is I'm acting as if I'm creating a text editor. So let's say we wanted to provide the option for the user to click a little checkbox inside of our menus that either allow them to show line numbers or not show them. So I'm going to store this in a TK variable. So I'm going to say line numbers is going to be equal to int var. And now you're starting to see why knowing how to use TK variables is useful. So we'll just go line numbers, and by default we're going to set these to be checked. Now what I need to do is bind the checking of the line number option in the menu to that variable, and to do so I'm just going to go view menu and add, and this is going to be a check button. This is going to be a different type of guy, and the label that I'm going to have this have is going to be line numbers, whether they want the line numbers to show up or not in this fake text editor. And then I tie the value of whether it's checked or not to our line numbers TK variable that we created right here. See? So this is going to change automatically depending upon if they click on it or not. And then we just go view menu like this, add, cascade, and let's say that we want to have another one of these guys show up, and this is going to be fonts. And this is going to be another function that is going to allow them to check whether they want different types of fonts to show up. So let's go and do fonts, and then we're going to tie this to the font menu, which we haven't even created yet. We'll create that right now. And then after we do this, we'll add the whole thing to our menu. So we're going to say the menu, add, and then cascade, and this is going to be the label that's going to show up is view. And menu is going to be equal to the view menu. Alright, so now we need to create our font menu. So let's just copy this right here and throw font menu inside here. It's just going to have a whole bunch of options just like we did before. Alright, so what we want to do is we want to store our different font options inside of a TK string variable. So I'm going to call this text font is equal to, and this is going to be a string variable, and text font once again, and we're going to set this to Times New Roman by default, so just have it be Times. And let's say that we want to output our font changes over here on the screen just so we can see that things are changing. So I'll create a function that does that. Say something like change font is going to receive an event, maybe, and we'll throw that there. And whenever this is called, we're just going to say something like font picked. Obviously you don't need to do this, I'm just doing it so you can see what's going on whenever we click on these different guys, and we can get whatever the result of the font picked was and output that on the screen. Then we're going to define the font drop down that's going to be attached to the view. So we're going to say font menu is equal to menu, tie this to the main menu. Again, tear off is going to be equal to 0. And then we're going to define all of our different radio button options for our fonts, because if one of them selected, we don't want, it's impossible to check that you want to use multiple different fonts. So the way a radio button is going to work inside of Tkinter is we're going to put a label inside of here. And we're going to have Times obviously be an option as a font. We're going to tie this to the text font TK variable that we have here. And if it is clicked on, it is going to call our change of font function for it to execute. And then we're going to do this for a couple different other fonts just so you can see a couple of them on here. And there we are. And we don't need to change anything except the name. So we'll have Courier be another option inside of here, as well as Arial. So there you are for our mermaid fans. And is there anything else I want to do? Yeah, wow. Whoops. Tear off. Don't like little errors like that. And let's come in. Might as well do the help and the about function that we have inside of here as well. So let's go and just do this, and so that we can see where the help part starts. So we'll call this help menu, and we'll start off defining this with help menu is equal to, and it's menu, and it's tied to the main menu, and of course tear off is going to be equal to 0. And then I'm going to actually call for whenever the about option is clicked on inside of the help drop down that it's going to call a function, but it's also going to be tied to a shortcut. So to do that, what you do is you go help menu and add command, just like we have done here before, except I'm going to go put about inside of here as the label. And then the thing that's going to be different is I'm going to go and call accelerator. And accelerator is going to be used to show that a shortcut is also available to us. And that shortcut in this situation is going to be Command H. And these are different on different operating systems. Here, I'll show you how they're different here in 1 second. And let's say that we want to call the function show about, which is our message box guy. Way up here, we created this a while ago. This guy, show about, is going to pop up a little message box whenever that's clicked on, or this little command shortcut is clicked on. And if you're wondering how to set the different shortcut keys, commands, or whatever on different operating systems, this works on Macs as well as on Windows and Linux. Here are a couple different options. You could put something like Command O, Shift Control S, Command Q, Command Option Q. And your main modifiers you're going to use are Control, Control, Option, Option, Alt, Shift, and Command. And of course, those are going to be inside of quotes, just like I defined it right there. And let's finish this off so you can see all of the different changes we made here. So we're going to say the menu and add cascade. And the label for this last guy is going to be help. And the menu is going to be tied to help menu. And then if we want to bind our shortcuts to our little keys that we defined inside of here, we just go root bind just like we did before. And then we will say Command-A like that. Like I said, play with these different options up here depending upon what operating system you are using. And then we just say what we want to show. So show about is going to be that guy right there. And let's say that we also want this to work if they have a lowercase a. Well, we just come in here and change that to lowercase a. All right, and if I did everything right, let's run it and let's see what happens. And it looks like I did everything right. And let's see our handiwork. So there is our little application. We can click on File. You already saw that guy. You can see here's View. Click on line numbers. That's going to check or uncheck depending upon whatever's going on. We would be able to call a function, of course, that would be able to change what's going on inside of here. There's also our fonts, and you can see that whenever we click on one of them, that the other one automatically goes away. And you can see here is help, and there is about, and Command H. I see what I did. Well, let's just go and kill this right now. Well, we can just go File Quit. See, I defined this as Command H, but Command A there. Well, that was kind of silly. So let's go and get rid of that, and we'll throw that in there, and we'll run it again. Now, if we come up here, click on Help, now you can see the shortcut actually shows up inside of there. See, it has to actually be bound for it to show up. And if we click on it, it's going to pop up the little message right like that. But we're also going to be able to go and click on Command A and have it pop up again. Alright guys, so there is a whole bunch of new things about how we can use Tkinter with Python. In the next part of the tutorial, I'm going to continue covering all the other different things. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.